everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us too in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Broadcasting from the Kanowski-Bresney studios comes the radio medium Laura Lee Show.
I feel like you had to let him go.
Yes, it is. He was on life support.
You've taken on the burden for his passing. Is that true?
That is right.
There's something to do with a Barbie doll.
He used to stick the old school Barbie dolls in the cake.
Oh my God, you're giving me goosebumps right now.
The radio medium Laura Lee Show. Tune into your spirit every Tuesday at 4 p.m.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Congratulations to the students and staff of Emergence Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts for their winning submission to the state's Power of Presence initiative. The school's amazing video will help spread the word about the power of students being in school every day. To see the video and learn more, visit us at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a new guide available this month. It is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Mike, when you look at the big reasons that someone might want to undertake trust planning and how that dovetails with financial planning, what are the big items that come up for a lot of people?
Yeah, for most common reasons, there's four that I think about. One, in certain states and across the country, there's an estate tax, and so there's trusts that can help you mitigate the cost of that estate tax for future generations. There's trusts that can allow you to do sorts of bloodline planning. Maybe you have minor children and you're worried about passing away young. You can have trusts that are set up to deal with that situation. You have trusts that can avoid probate. And then the fourth one is sometimes a trust that might help deal with creditor protection. Sometimes a nursing home would be one of those creditors.
When we talk about financial planning, generally we're talking about things such as budgeting or investment allocations and things like that, and making that work to get you the money when you want it. How do you view trusts as fitting into that as well?
Well, it's one of those boxes that you need to check, and it goes along with other estate planning documents like a will, like a healthcare proxy. But important for most people, especially those in New England, to at least have the conversation around trusts and whether or not it fits into their strategy.
The guide, again, is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and it is available for you to request at no cost. All you have to do is call 800-393-4001. The title, again, is Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and the way to request the guide is by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We pride ourselves on being able to support veterans in their time of greatest need, ensuring they receive the protections they deserve. For over 100 years, the DAV of Massachusetts has helped thousands of veterans with housing, transportation, and medical assistance, and you can help too. Please visit dav5k.boston and make a donation today. That's dav5k.boston.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you here on a Friday. There are 9 Federal Reserve speakers set to talk today. And so we're just going to call today and go home.
9 times.
Yeah, we're just going to call today and go home because, how can you compete with that when you got 9 members of the Federal Reserve getting out there and chatting it up, including, here's the thing. It's really only 8 because John Williams is scheduled for 2 different talks. He did one at 6:15 this morning, waking up early, at least getting after it early. And then he's got an 11:30. I believe that his schedule's clear for the afternoon.
Do people get this joke?
The force is strong with this one.
Okay. We do it every once in a while. I hope people get that joke.
I think people get it. It's every time we talk about John Williams.
Yeah, okay. It's not the same John Williams, is it?
It is. He went from being a composer to working on the Federal Reserve.
What do you think is a larger percentage of the American public? Those who care about when the Federal Reserve speaks, or those who are currently in default on their student loan debt?
The latter. It's not even close.
Yeah, you're probably
Because it's 5 million people that are in default on student loan debt?
Yeah, I think so. So what's that, like 2% of the adult population?
Yeah, the number of people that actually, know when the Federal Reserve, not even care. The number of people that know when the Federal Reserve speaks, there's
0.5%.
There's 12 of us. It's you, me, and Tucker, and 9 other people. Something like that. Anyways, I digress. So this morning, again, this is our top story just because it's at the top of the stack, so it's our top story.
It should be, too. It's the most important thing of the day.
I disconcur, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
Headline from Bloomberg, Trump says 80% China tariff seems right ahead of talks. So, here's why I don't think this is particularly important, is because we don't know exactly what is going to happen this weekend. The Trump administration, specifically President Trump, has had 4 different numbers that he's referenced for tariffs this week.
Yeah.
One of which was, we're not going to move off the 145%. One of which was, we're going to lower it maybe to 50 or 60%. And now this at 80. So my whole point is, stop paying attention to what the president is saying on tariffs each and every day, and instead pay attention to what they are actually doing, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself batty.
Oh, I agree. I was just referring to this weekend's talks on China tariffs probably being the most important thing to drive the economy and markets between now and Monday. Where it goes, I don't think anyone has any real idea, but seems like they're coming down. I think it's kind of meaningless if they come down to 80%, but it seems as though the president is setting up the conditions under which rates of tariffs can come down this weekend.
And everyone knows that, which is why I kind of look at it and I go, so what do you do with that information then? When everyone knows something, there's no edge. There's nothing that you can do with it. And so I think that the interesting thing to consider is not, hey, what happens if tariffs come down to 50%? Because that's kind of what's being baked in here to the market. We can talk about what it means to the real economy and this and that, but from a market perspective, the interesting things to consider are, hey, what if they move more than that? What if tariffs come down to 25%? Or, hey, what if things go off the rails and we're still sitting here Monday, Tuesday, and they haven't budged?
Yep. Distinct possibility that these negotiations look something similar to when the president met with Zelensky. So there's no real predicting how these negotiations go. But look, again, we do have to cover the change in tone over the course of the last week. And the change in tone over the course of the last week has been more conciliatory from the Trump administration.
Let's talk about this change in tone, because there's two tones that matter. It's a two-tone engagement. And I use that word engagement here because that's the word that China has been using for the last couple days in describing what they're heading into this weekend. Now, I am not an expert when it comes to internal Chinese politics, nor am I an expert in anything relating to Chinese language.
Doesn't even speak Mandarin.
I don't know I literally could not tell you one word in Mandarin. Not one. Not even going to try.
My entire Chinese language came from the movie Rush Hour.
It's probably wrong then.
Yeah.
Probably wrong. So, here's what I do know from people that tell me these things that know something about China. What they inform me is there's a very specific reason that China is characterizing this as an engagement rather than as a negotiation. In that, from a Chinese perspective, they are not expecting to negotiate. They are expecting to talk about what a potential negotiation could look like. So on one hand, I look at that and I go, okay, that could mean that maybe the market is overpricing what it's expecting to get this weekend. Market might be pricing in like an 80% chance the tariffs come down to 50%, and maybe the reality is closer to 50-50.
Yeah, the way that they have phrased this engagement has been, if the United States would like to negotiate, then do so in good faith and eliminate the tariffs prior to us negotiating anything. That has been the pretty consistent messaging from them. And so if we take that as the Chinese perspective going into this, then maybe the takeaway is that tariff rates do in fact come down this weekend, but it's merely as a promising starting point to a future negotiation.
The other way that you can read that is, look, the Chinese government obviously needs to present a certain image to its domestic populace and doesn't want to be seen as moving too far, and so that's why they use the term engagement, and then after they can say, hey, we started off, this was where we were going to be, but the U.S. side blew us away with, what they were going to be, doing, and so we decided to, move forward with X, Y, or Z, whatever it might be.
What are the important things that the Chinese government wants? Other than just reduce tariffs and continued trade.
Stop bothering us.
I think they really want semiconductors.
They're not going to get it.
No. But if we're talking about things that they are desperately seeking, the Chinese want American technology products. What is it that the United States wants from China?
To go away.
To just China not exist anymore.
No, not exist, but just stop behaving the way you've been behaving as it relates to trade. Like, go away and act like a normal country as it relates to trade. That's the simplest and cleanest way that if you actually want to know what the U.S. government wants as it relates to China, it can probably be encapsulated in 4 or 5 things, a couple of which we saw in this UK deal from yesterday. Number 1, stop producing way too much stuff and then just dumping it into the world every time that you realize you produced way too much stuff. Because that's not good for anyone's business. Number 2, stop engaging in export fraud where you send stuff to another country in order to avoid tariffs and then have it relabeled as made in country XYZ instead of made in China. So those are a couple things. Number 3, hey, stop requiring these joint ventures in China where you basically end up stealing a bunch of intellectual property from foreign companies in order to grant them access to the Chinese market. Number 4, let your currency float freely and stop using it as a way to maintain a trade surplus with us in perpetuity, and instead, allow your country to develop the way that it otherwise would with the trade flows that are flowing into it. I think those are probably the 4 big things that the U.S. would want.
Fentanyl's on that list too, but I think it's more of a negotiating tactic than anything else. Yeah.
And here's the thing. On those 4 items, if you are the Chinese government, things have worked out pretty well for you doing what you've been doing for the last 20, 30 years. Why are you going to change? Are you going to change just because of a month of pressure on your economy?
Not if you're the Chinese. The entire philosophy of your country has been based on the idea that it is a country that was taken advantage of and suffered for a century, a generation of people.
At the hands of Westerners.
At the hands of Westerners. And so we will not allow that to happen to us again. That's the entire Chinese mantra and ideology. And therefore, changing something that's been working, again, to Chuck's point, fairly well for the last 30 years, based on an ideology that's unrecognizable in the United States. The ideology in China has been and continues to be that the government directs investment
and provides for the people.
And that is very different from the United States and Western ideology of, look, demand drives investment, consumers and free markets drive investment, not the government. And I don't think you're going to shake them from that view based on a weekend of negotiations.
So I think ultimately what markets are looking for is some kind of step down. The one that's being talked about that even the New York Post floated yesterday is, we're probably going to see like a tariff rate of, between 45 and 60%, somewhere in that range. Okay, that's like expected now. The thing that has the potential to move markets is if you get something outside of there. And again, I don't know how exactly you handicap, what the chances of these things are, but that's kind of where we are heading into the weekend at this point. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, now that we've had a day to look through the details of the deal between the UK and US, let's talk a little bit about what we found there and what we think that means for future negotiations with other countries as well.
Market volatility is at its highest point since the pandemic. Keep it here for the most comprehensive coverage of the global trade war. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. Creating the right estate plan to help secure your future takes effort. Cushing & Dolan are experts in estate planning. Their new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. In it, you'll learn how to make the right decisions to always protect your assets while avoiding costly mistakes, any one of which could have a dramatic and damaging effect on your financial strategy. As an example, if you've created a trust more than 10 years ago and haven't updated it since, you're setting yourself up for problems. Don't take chances with the assets you've worked so hard to attain. Cushing & Dolan's new guide will help you address issues like this, so call right now, 866-848-5699, and ask for your copy of our new free guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Wall Street Watch, a full update on the market's performance to date. Weekdays at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is proud of our partnership with the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. This year's 5K is Saturday, November 8th, and registration is now open. The race is sold out each of the past 4 years, and slots will fill up quickly, so don't delay. Visit dav5k.boston and reserve your spot, or join our team here at the Financial Exchange by registering under Team TFE. That's Saturday, November 8th for this year's DAV 5K. Sign up now at dav5k.boston.
All right, let's talk a little bit about this deal between the U.S. and U.K., because I think it helps to inform my thinking on where we're going with other countries here. So, key starting points. Just background. The U.S. runs a trade surplus with the U.K.
Yes.
$12 billion last year. We sent them $12 billion more in stuff than they sent us. Other things of note. The U.S. and the U.K., we've got some pretty close historical ties, all the way back to the point where we literally fought each other over America.
Did we?
And we won.
Didn't know that.
It was a long time ago. But almost 250 years next year, by the way.
Mel Gibson was there.
250. He was. Yeah. He was. Yeah. Heath Ledger, too. Rest in peace. But in any case, some really close historical ties. I mean, you talk about, like, fighting alongside each other in World War I, World War II, all the way up through, Gulf War I, the Afghanistan War. I mean,
War on Terror, yeah.
These are countries with, like, deep, historical ties.
I would argue
before you even get to, like, language and governance and stuff like that.
I would argue the only country you can put in the same category would be Canada.
It's a short list. I have like a top 5 that I would put there that also, again, just because of like language reasons, includes Australia.
Sure.
You probably put Japan in the conversation, but probably in the next tier. Same with Germany and France. Other than that, I don't know who else you would include in that list. So it's a very short list. Huge areas of strategic cooperation, military, intelligence, economic. So you put all of this together and you say, okay, this is going to be one of the easiest deals to negotiate and should receive some of the most favorable terms.
Agreed.
So here's the interesting thing. In terms of what the deal actually says, first, not a deal that is going through Congress for full-fledged congressional approval. So it's not a true, free trade agreement or any kind of trade agreement. It is basically a handshake deal on tariffs.
Between leaders.
Which is fine. Like, it's not good or bad. It just is.
It's also not permanent because of that.
Correct. It can always be amended by either side at any point in time.
Or by the next leader of the country.
Correct.
Yep.
Here's what's going on. The UK gets to export jet engines and aerospace parts to the U.S. with no tariffs. They also get to export 100,000 cars a year at 10% rather than the 25% global auto tariff, and they get to export steel to the U.S. at 0%. There also is a mutual reduction of tariffs on ethanol and beef, so U.S. farmers get a little bone thrown to them as far as, hey, you can export a little bit more easily to the UK, but the 10% tariffs on all other imports from the UK stays in place.
Yep.
Still in place. So, what do we actually make of this? The first is it's a really minor adjustment in the tariff rate. It's not something that is huge by any means. It's not dramatically reducing that tariff rate that the UK is going to pay to the United States. There are some carve-outs that they have. Obviously, the biggest one is that aerospace piece, where it's about a $10 billion a year export business to the U.S., largely to Boeing, because if you're not familiar with them, Rolls-Royce, the automaker who sells, really expensive cars, they also make jet engines. They're one of a couple major jet engine providers in the world, and they do sell to Boeing and to Airbus for use on their planes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because of this surplus, the UK was not included on the list of reciprocal tariffs that came out back on April 2nd. And so this was not something where we needed to start at 20% and negotiate our way down here. What we knew was that 10% was in place a few months ago, and it's largely still in place.
So here's where I think I end up landing on this. The 10% blanket tariff, that's a minimum globally. The Trump administration wants to raise money via tariffs, potentially to help pay for some of the tax cuts they're looking to push through. But they view this as a revenue raiser. It is absolutely something that they want to keep out there.
Yep.
So you say, okay, the UK is the easiest one of these to negotiate. You start getting into countries that have closer economic ties with China, and this is where I think the meat is. The U.S. wants to try to isolate China. The airplane parts thing is a key piece here to me, which is, look, we'll give you the ability. You want to build your country through exporting jet engines? Fine. Sell them to us. We will give you the best terms out of anyone. And by the way, the UK has wanted to do this for a while. They've been negotiating on that jet engine piece for 10 years with the U.S. Fine, here you go. This is the carrot to the stick. You want this? You got it, but you're going to deal with us. If you're a country with closer ties to China, countries like Vietnam, Malaysia that have really, big import-exports with China and also are, really heavily at risk of China trying to dump product into them that then gets rerouted to the U.S., tariff rates probably aren't going to end up landing at 10%.
I would think not.
15 to 30 probably feels right. It might take longer to negotiate, so don't be surprised if this is something where that 90-day waiver of the reciprocal tariffs, maybe get another 90-day or 180-day that comes on the back of it.
Because think of how long this one negotiation seemed to take. We don't know how long they were negotiating behind the scenes, but my guess would be pretty immediately starting in April, this negotiation started, and we are not done yet.
Correct.
This was the framework for a deal to be made that has not been executed or signed in any way. Again, it's kind of a handshake agreement between leaders, so it may not need to be executed in the same way that a congressional deal would be. But it took seemingly a month to get this one done.
Now, you'll probably, again, some of those ones that I referenced, whether it's Japan, Australia, you may get a few of these popping up over the next couple weeks or so because I think that the frameworks are likely to be pretty similar. But some of these other ones are going to be more challenging. I mean, if you're Vietnam and one of the key U.S. asks is, hey, we're going to really push back on the amount of stuff that you do with China, it's a much bigger deal for them than it is for the U.K. And this is before we even get to the EU and how they have some very deep China ties at this point. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, Wall Street Watch is next.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
There are critical mistakes you can make during the estate planning process that may have a damaging effect on your financial strategy. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Get yours today and make the right decisions to protect your assets. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, a lot of people create their estate plan, but there are some that don't actually transfer assets into it. Can you explain why this is such a big mistake?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to try to explain it both from a revocable and an irrevocable planning standpoint. With the revocable, if you don't put assets in there, you end up leaving them owned perhaps jointly if you're married, and designated beneficiaries and the like. But if everything goes to the spouse when one dies, then you've completely avoided your estate plan. In other words, you've set your trust up, but you went around it by leaving everything to the spouse instead of going through it by funding the trust and cramming down the assets to shelter some from estate taxes on the first death, so there's less taxed on the second death. And ultimately, on the second death, if you don't plan, there could be a probate problem because everything would go to probate if it's in their own name. The other big reason is with an irrevocable trust, of course, not funding it also can result in estate tax problems by the same way it did with the revocable trust. But in addition to not funding them with the irrevocable, you don't even begin the 5-year waiting period to get the assets protected from the nursing home. So there's a much bigger problem not funding an irrevocable trust versus not funding a revocable trust. So make sure you fund your trust if you do your planning.
Well, luckily, Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide guide by simply calling 866-848-5699, 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are now flat after yesterday's rally, one day after a trade agreement between the U.S. and U.K. as Wall Street awaits developments from trade talks this weekend between the U.S. and China in Switzerland. This morning on Truth Social, President Trump posted that 80% tariffs on China seems right. Right now, the Dow is off by 54 points, just over 0.1%. S&P 500 is down by only 6 points, and the NASDAQ is down by merely 10 points. Russell 2000 is up just over 1/3%. 10-year Treasury yield retreating 2 basis points, now at 4.34%. And crude oil up 0.75%, trading at $60.37 a barrel. More travel demand worries have emerged after travel booking platform Expedia saw its quarterly revenue come up short of street expectations. Expedia also issued soft guidance as it saw weaker than expected travel demand to and from the U.S. That stock down by 8.5%. Meanwhile, social media company Pinterest swung to a profit and guided for higher than expected revenue this quarter, helping ease concerns that trade policy would potentially hurt spending on digital advertising. Pinterest is jumping by 8%. Elsewhere, shares in buy now, pay later platform Affirm down over 11% after its revenue guidance disappointed. Affirm also said it would start a partnership with Costco after it lost Walmart in March. Lyft shares popping by 21% after the ride-hailing company swung to an unexpected quarterly profit. Lyft also increased its share buyback plan to $750 million. And shares in Monster Beverage up by 1% after the energy drink maker saw its first quarter revenue fall short of analysts' estimates. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Mike, there's a piece in Bloomberg. It has the headline, Key S&P 500 Model Turns Bearish for the First Time.
So Bloomberg wrote this about their own model, presumably.
And it sounds like it must be a very key model then.
Have you ever heard of this model, Chuck?
No.
No, neither have I. It's the Equity Market Regime Model, which is a Bloomberg intelligence model that tracks the benchmark stock gauge and clusters periods into 3 phases. Green, yellow, and red effectively is all you need to know. And as you can imagine, the red is not so good. The green is pretty good. It fell into the red category recently.
Okay.
So I guess what? I think this falls into that same category of stories that we've covered before, which is if any story like this makes you completely upend your view on markets or the economy, then either you must have a lot of context and work for Bloomberg enough to know that this model exists and you really follow it, or you should, or in which case you already knew that this turned red, or you should ignore this story entirely is my general takeaway.
Yeah, I just, this is
what,
one of
like,
those
what are you
pieces
supposed to do with it?
Where it's like, okay, like, do they update you every day, whether it's red, yellow, or green? The answer is no. They don't.
Maybe if you subscribe to a Bloomberg terminal for $10,000 a year.
More than double that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what a Bloomberg terminal's going for these days.
More than double that.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, inflation,
Right.
It's,
so, yes, we are apparently in a red regime in this Bloomberg intelligence model. The biggest warning was that the S&P 500 closed below its 200-day daily moving average in March, the first time since November of 2023. Again, if that means nothing to you, then ignore this story entirely.
This brings us to our next piece from the Wall Street Journal. Why this stock market bounce won't hold. Subheadline, after Liberation Day, stocks fell a lot, perhaps too much.
Are we talking about today's market bounce? Because that one did start positive and is now negative.
They've now rebounded a lot, perhaps too much. So, I mean, look, here's the deal. I work in the investment business.
You do.
I've done that for almost 16 years. And I have absolutely no idea where the stock market is going to be 6, 12, 24 months from now. I don't have a price target for it. I don't know the exact path it's going to follow to get there. I have some ideas about what I think might happen, but I've seen enough and I'm humble enough to know that all kinds of weird stuff can happen that you don't expect, and you don't have any idea whether you're actually going to be right or not. In this business, if you're right 55% of the time, you're a rock star.
You're Warren Buffett.
If you're right 60% of the time, you are like deified as like some kind of savant.
Yes.
So the fact that, yeah, like I can look out at the horizon now and be like, yeah, there's still some high tariffs in place, and even if the China ones come down a little bit, it's still going to be, tough, and, there's still this, issue that you're going to have with supply chains. I can look out and say that all those things are true, but I can also envision a world in which, I don't know, something unexpected happens, and all of a sudden we're sitting here, at the end of the year, and we're like, man, how'd the S&P 500 get to 7,000?
Yeah.
I could also see a world where we're like, oh, how'd it get to like 4,000? Each of those are possible through a unique set of circumstances. And what anyone in this business will tell you is you're always trying to look at the probabilities that something will happen, not just this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think maybe an important reminder that the Wall Street Journal article title at least reminded me of was that it is atypical for recessions and market downturns to go the way they did in 2022 and 2020. As a reminder, in 2020, the market turned down over the course of about 3 weeks by 33%, marked by more than one freeze in trading due to the volatility, and then bounced back either faster or nearly as fast as it fell. In 2008, in the dot-com bubble...
2022 was a much more normal sell-off. Like, it took place over, 10 months.
Yep, it lasted a little bit longer, but again, it had recovered itself in, 6 months?
Yeah.
So not a terribly long time. 08, as an example, a 55%, 53% full drawdown on the S&P 500, defined by several periods where the stock market rallied in between there, and it took a good year and a half to get to that bottom. The dot-com bubble similarly behaved that way, and so one of my worries...
the dot-com bubble, I mean, you want to talk
lasted
about...
longer and defined by even more volatility and spikes in prices.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about... Well, and not just that, the dot-com bubble, it took you 15 years to get back above water.
Right.
At least if you're talking about the
Tech
NASDAQ.
stocks, yeah.
So
the point that I'm attempting to make here is it has been a long time since we have collectively as U.S. investors experienced a market drawdown, not of that magnitude, but of that typical, is typicality a word? I don't think so.
It is now. This is what we do on the financial exchange. We make a word if one doesn't exist.
That degree of normalcy in markets. And if you are going into this one expecting just a rapid bounce back, you might get it, but that is atypical of markets when they are experiencing a growth slowdown or a recession. If you are investing today, maybe on your own, maybe with a professional, and you are uncertain of how you are preparing for what could be a prolonged period of downturn, what the president has described as potentially a period of economic difficulty for the United States, ask yourself, hey, do I understand how my portfolio would react, and do I understand how I, as a worker or a retiree, am prepared for that personally? Give the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group a call if you would like a second opinion on that. The number's 800-393-4001. You can book a consultation online as well at armstrongadvisory.com. But the number for the Armstrong Advisory Group, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
So, speaking of things that are unexpected, yesterday, apparently, and this is according to reporting from the Wall Street Journal, I'll quote here. The president, who rejected a, quote, millionaire tax April 23rd, is now considering backing a tax structure that would return the top individual income tax rate to 39.6% from 37% for people making over $2.5 million, according to people familiar with the White House. Now, this also, then this morning, I wish I had the president's exact quote because it was a good one. It was something along the lines of, I'm not sure whether or not this would be a good idea or a bad idea, but I think it would be a bad idea, but Republicans can do it if they want to, I think was the gist of the quote, which I just thought was fantastic. But look, here's the deal. You have Congress trying to figure out how to get a tax bill across the finish line.
There are rules that they must follow. They're thinking about changing some of those rules, but even that is difficult in terms of how you do this. And there's a looming threat, by the way, that if they are way too wild in changing these rules and running up the deficit, which is, typically what tax cuts do, then the economy, the markets could get punished from the bond perspective. We
Yes.
saw that back in early April, and it would not be surprising to have that repeated. So they're kind of under the gun. And this has been one of the ways they have come up with to offset the costs of maybe expanding the SALT cap or
no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. Like there's a lot of considerations that would decrease the amount of revenue coming in, and so they're kind of sitting there being like, okay, what can we do? Is this something that is possible or not? Here's all I'll say about this. Note it, put it in the back of your mind, see where things are in a couple months.
Yeah.
Because there's so many proposals floating around out there. I have no idea what's going to happen and what isn't. 99% of the stuff that ends up getting discussed does not end up making it into final bills. You can have all kinds of twists and turns that happen here. So I at this point, I don't really get that excited or worked up about anything in either particular direction, just because it's a lot of noise until it starts getting closer to the finish line.
Agreed.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the 233 U.S. cities where starter homes cost more than $1 million. Gosh.
The global trade war is in full swing. How long will it last is anyone's guess. Keep it here for the most up-to-date information plus breaking news every day, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, two of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com. Creating the right estate plan to help secure your future takes effort. Cushing & Dolan are experts in estate planning. Their new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. In it, you'll learn how to make the right decisions to always protect your assets while avoiding costly mistakes, any one of which could have a dramatic and damaging effect on your financial strategy. As an example, if you've created a trust more than 10 years ago and haven't updated it since, you're setting yourself up for problems. Don't take chances with the assets you've worked so hard to attain. Cushing & Dolan's new guide will help you address issues like this, so call right now, 866-848-5699, and ask for your copy of our new free guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. That's 866-848-5699, or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod in Hyannis. Looking for a great vacation spot? Look no further than Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod. Located just off Route 6, Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod is perfect for a weekend getaway or a fun-filled family vacation. You'll enjoy first-class accommodations and dining, our incredible Fins Up water park, and of course the gorgeous pageantry of the Cape. Visit MargaritavilleResortsCapeCod.com for reservations and more information.
Piece from Zillow that I got a few problems with. The headline is, in 233 U.S. cities, even a starter home costs $1 million. And so here's the first part. Here's how they define a starter home. It's a home that is amongst the lowest third of home values in a given region.
Okay.
I'm not sure that that's actually a starter home, because you could have a place that, as an example, might be in the lowest third of home values, but it could be like because there's no first floor and it collapsed into the basement. Like, that's not really a starter home. It's not, that's like a teardown. So I don't really love the methodology to begin with. On top of that, there are parts of, not necessarily every state, but there's certain towns that are just not starter home towns. Like, you don't suddenly go to Nantucket and are like, wow, I'd love to have a starter home here. Like, sure, so would everyone, but you can't do that because there's only so much land on Nantucket. So, of course, it's not going to be affordable for you to just move there for a starter home. If you want to be more reasonable than that, okay, to those people in the Boston area, you don't just sit there and say, hey, I just graduated from college, I'm 24, I put away $10,000, let me go buy a place in Weston. For people in New York, you don't sit there and say, hey, you know what? Graduated from college, I'm ready to settle down, start a family. Let me find, a great place in the Hamptons.
Westport, Connecticut.
Let's move to the Hamptons. No, that's not reasonable. So I think some of this is, skewed just because, there are places that are really expensive where you wouldn't expect to find starter homes. Now, there's also California. And Gosh. Here's the deal with California. So 233 towns. I did a little research, and I hope these numbers are right because they're from Wikipedia.
Okay.
Nationwide, Mike, do you know how many towns there are in the United States?
No, I'm not even going to.
Approximately 20,000.
Okay.
Do you know how many there are in California?
19,000.
3,000.
It's all of them. It's about 500.
Okay.
So, about a quarter of towns, 113 towns in California, have starter home prices above $1 million. Now, what I can tell you is that it's not really possible that a quarter of California is like so desirable that there should be no starter homes for under $1 million there. Rather, I think we can conclusively say that the California real estate market is broken for a number of reasons. The biggest one being, I forget what the proposition was called when it passed back in the 80s, but it's basically, hey, if you live in your home, we're not going to raise your property taxes, and so basically no inventory comes to market, and everything that is out there...
It's basically rent control for the entire state.
Correct. And so the California market is horribly broken. So outside of California, there's only 120 towns out of the remaining 19,000 and change that have this issue. If less than 1% of the towns in the country have this issue, it's not really an issue.
Well, I think that there is, in large portions of the country, a housing affordability issue. I think we've covered that. I think that remains true.
But this is not what
But this
saying.
doesn't define it.
No.
Yeah, I don't think this gives you anything. But I did the math. I don't think you were on the show a few weeks ago, Chuck, when I did the math on the median home in Dedham, Massachusetts. And I know our listeners are all over the place, but the town of Dedham has been known for a long time as like a working class community. It's not Wellesley. It is not what's like the nicest school district in New Hampshire, like Bedford or Rye. Yeah, like it's not one of these really luxury towns, but it's close to Boston. It's easy to commute to. It abuts the city of Boston. The median home for sale in Dedham, which was I think 3 beds and 2 baths, was $1.7 million.
Not possible for most people.
To stay within the CFP's guidelines of how much you should be spending on housing as a percentage of your income and buy that home, I think the math I did was you as a household needed to be making around $400,000.
Which is not the case for most people.
And so, look, there are pockets all over the country and in eastern Massachusetts especially where housing is unaffordable for a large swath of Americans. There's a massive portion of Florida where housing is quite affordable and is about to get a lot more affordable because of just how onerous it has gotten to maintain buildings there and insure them and make sure that they don't become a disaster every time a hurricane rolls around. And so I think overall we will actually see home prices fall in the United States this year.
Let's take a quick break before we get to hour 2. We got some great stories coming up, including the tale of the boy who ordered 70,000 lollipops on Amazon. You're not going to want to miss that after this.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit GoRedForWomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818. Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod is perfect for your next New England vacation. Located just off Route 6 in Hyannis, the resort has everything you need to enjoy an incredible week with your family or a quick weekend getaway. Along with first-class accommodations and food, Fins Up Water Park is packed with aquatic adventures that will keep the kids entertained for hours. The summer season is coming soon, so make plans today for a fun-filled vacation at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod. For more information and to book your trip, visit MargaritavilleResortsCapeCod.com.
Hi, it's Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan. Mike, a lot of times when we talk about financial planning, it's with the idea of having your money available to you to use when you need to use it. How do trusts work to kind of keep that idea going, not just for yourself, but also for the next generation as well?
Sure, and it doesn't always need to be the next generation, because how many times have you heard somebody say, hey, look, I raised my kids, they're in a good spot, I want the less check I write to bounce. I'm spending this money. But, there can be situations where trust can benefit even a married couple in the event of a lawsuit or a nursing home that's unexpected, especially if there's a big age gap. That can be critical. But for next generation planning, it gets much more common, and especially in the New England area where most states have an estate tax, there's a lot that can be done from a multi-generational planning perspective to, if not eliminate those taxes, at least mitigate them to a large degree. I mean, you think about here in New England, the value of your primary residence, which you sell, it might not be subject to capital gains tax, but if you die, is most certainly subject to estate taxes. There's a lot that can be done in the way of trust planning.
Our guide this month is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan, and you can request it by calling 800-393-4001. Again, that number is 800-393-4001, and the guide this month is titled Trusts in Your Financial Plan and details a number of ideas about how you can fit trusts into your financial plan.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
Hour 2 of the Financial Exchange here. Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you. Not too much going on in markets thus far today. The Dow's off 55 points. It's a nothing burger. The S&P's up 4, nothing burger. NASDAQ up 28, nothing burger. Russell 2000 down 0.01%, nothing burger. It's just no one really wants to do anything heading into the weekend because no one knows what's going to happen in Switzerland.
Which is negotiations with China, in case anybody was sleeping under a rock.
Or some cheese being made with some pocket knives. Anything and everything can happen there. But look, I think the expectations are that there's going to be some kind of step down in tariffs, whether it is to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80%, no one knows, but it's not. I don't think anyone thinks it's going back to 10 or 20.
Nope.
And I don't think anyone thinks it's staying at 145, which is why the interesting thing to me is, hey, what if it does either of those? Like that. That's where the meat is in markets. It's not in, the stuff that's priced in. It's in the stuff that isn't. And I'm not saying it will or won't happen. It's just, who knows? Like that. That's where I get kind of curious. 10-year U.S. Treasury down 1 whole basis point to 4.36%. Woo! Again, pretty quiet there. Oil, West Texas Intermediate, is up 68 cents a barrel, given that the AAA National Average for gas prices is still between $3.10 and $3.20. I'm not going to tell you the exact price because it just hasn't been moving in the last 2 weeks. And gold bouncing back today after a weekday yesterday, up 35.40 an ounce to 33.41 and 40 cents. Mike, there's a piece here from the Boston Globe. It's titled "A Change to Real Estate Commissions Was Supposed to Transform the Housing Market. It Hasn't Happened." And gosh, I wish that I had indicated the date that we talked about this last year, because this is exactly what I said was going to happen on this. Because look, here's what happened. There was this big settlement with the National Association of Realtors where they basically couldn't rope people into the old commission structure. They couldn't force you to cut the seller in on a deal, and everyone gets 2.5% or 3% and goes home happy.
Nor could they explicitly advertise it anymore.
Correct. So people were like, "Oh, this is going to open it up to hourly fees, and you're going to get a better deal, and this and that." And I kind of took the point. I'm like, guys, you don't buy homes like you buy tacos. You typically buy...
Or stocks, for that matter.
Right. You typically buy 1, maybe 2 homes in a lifetime if you're lucky. And so you're not going to know what the better deal is in terms of how you're going to do it. You're just going to say 5% is the norm. Great, we're going to do 5%, for the seller and whatever. And that's basically what we're seeing here is that, hey, the 5 to 6% commission that's been standard for, I don't know, as long as I've been alive and as long as I can remember, it's pretty much still how most people are doing it, because no one wants to think about how much am I paying my agent and am I getting a good deal or bad deal. If you don't want to pay an agent, great, you can do, for sale by owner. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. But most people want someone to help them with the process, and they don't seem to think that this is an unfair price for doing so if they're doing it.
I did like the creative way in which agents were signaling to each other that what the commission would be. I don't know if you saw some of these, but they would, in some of the photographs, they would include the 3 amigos on the television, for example, or they would have 3 pumpkins on the table to indicate a 3% commission, which I just do generally like as a creative way to get around things on collusion. The other point that I would make, though, is 50 years ago, they're making this comparison to 50 years ago when the New York Stock Exchange ended fixed rate commissions and eventually led to the likes of Robinhood, Fidelity, being able to drive down the cost of stock trading in the United States, for example.
Right, because obviously Fidelity and Robinhood and all those companies, they don't make any money now since trading's free.
Correct. Yeah, they haven't figured out how to do that, and they've just been unprofitable for the last 50 years. No, obviously not. But the other point that I would make about this is it took 50 years...
Right, not one.
...of deregulation to get any sort of structural change to how these companies did business with their customers and how much they charged for it. And so expecting
and they just
real
hid
estate
the fees
commissions
somewhere else.
Yeah, expecting real estate commissions to completely change and be upended, I just don't find to be a likely scenario. And if they do, then to Chuck's point, either the service will dramatically degrade, which unlikely given that it's home buying, or the money will go somewhere else.
The other thing is, and look, our show's based out of the New England area, which is high cost of living generally.
Yep.
And I feel like people think that real estate agents make a boatload of money, when in fact in most of the country, aside from, again, you look at California, New York, basically DC. New England, most of the country real estate agents don't make very much money. And here's the math on it. Let's say that you are a real estate agent and you're selling a property with I'll be generous, 6% commission. Median home price in the country right now, it's about $400,000. So let's do that to keep the math easy. And so you sell a property with a 6% commission. That is $24,000. That gets split then, if you have a buyer's and seller's agent, you split that, so divide it by 2. Now each side's taking home $12,000. But either if you're working for yourself, you've got some costs that you have to pay, usually either, taking pictures of the home, the staging, whatever it is that you might be doing, blah, blah, blah. There's stuff on that side. Or if you work under a brokerage, usually paying 30 to 50% to that firm. So out of that $24,000 total commission, you might end up, let's say that you get 70%. You get to keep 70% of your half. you're getting $8,400, which means even if in a busy spring housing season you sell 6 properties, you made $50,000 that year. Does anyone look at $50,000 and say, wow, like you're overpaid?
No, not the
really.
Majority of the country.
Now, if you want to look at the New England region and say, oh, I'm I deal only with the islands. Like okay, fine. So you're selling, 5 places for $2 million and great. Like you do the math and it's like, okay, so you made, $200,000 for the year. Okay, like, yeah, you're making some real money, but you're also in a high cost of living area because if you're selling property on the islands, you're probably not taking Cape Air out each and every day in order to service it.
Likely not.
So I'm of the opinion, and I know this is probably kind of like, I know some people look at real estate agents and they're kind of like, what did they really do? And I actually think real estate agents provide a hugely valuable service, in particular for first-time buyers who have no idea what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah. I think a good real estate agent earns every penny.
Yes.
I also like the changes that were made. I like the fact that it is now
if you want it.
Explicit in terms of what you are compensating your agent or the buyer. And honestly, previously, it just was not. And there was a lot of just wishy-washiness in the industry. As speaking from somebody who tried to negotiate this stuff, it was really unclear how it all was supposed to work. And I think this has been a first step in transparency, which does not always lead to lower cost.
Let's take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to do a little bit of trivia, and then we're going to talk about 70,000 lollipops right after this.
Tariff fever is in high gear. We've got the latest on what might be next and how long it might last. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod is perfect for your next New England vacation. Located just off Route 6 in Hyannis, the resort has everything you need to enjoy an incredible week with your family or a quick weekend getaway. Along with first-class accommodations and food, Fins Up Water Park is packed with aquatic adventures that will keep the kids entertained for hours. The summer season is coming soon, so make plans today for a fun-filled vacation at Margaritaville Resort Cape Cod. For more information and to book your trip, visit MargaritavilleResortsCapeCod.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. The DAV of Massachusetts has helped me and countless others adjust to civilian life through a variety of incredible programs. Through our local Veterans Assistance Program, we provide necessary services to veterans and their communities, such as food shopping, landscaping, and companionship, but we need your support. You can help by making a donation today. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Creating the right estate plan to help secure your future takes effort. Cushing & Dolan are experts in estate planning. Their new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. In it, you'll learn how to make the right decisions to always protect your assets while avoiding costly mistakes, any one of which could have a dramatic and damaging effect on your financial strategy. As an example, if you've created a trust more than 10 years ago and haven't updated it since, you're setting yourself up for problems. Don't take chances with the assets you've worked so hard to attain. Cushing & Dolan's new guide will help you address issues like this, so call right now, 866-848-5699, and ask for your copy of our new free guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid.
That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Is it a stroke? Even if you're not sure, act fast and call 911. Signs can include face drooping on one side, arm weakness, speech difficulty, or not making sense when talking. Time is critical. A stroke requires immediate medical care, which starts as soon as the ambulance arrives. So if you see any sign of stroke, act fast and call 911. Visit mass.gov/stroke, sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
If you missed any of today's show, catch up whenever you want on our YouTube page. Find daily show segments and full shows. Just go to youtube.com and search for The Financial Exchange. This is your home for breaking business and financial news. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands are St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John and are consistently voted one of the top Caribbean vacation destinations. Enjoy world-class cuisine, pristine beaches, rich history, and a vibrant nightlife. Book your trip now to visit America's Caribbean paradise, the United States Virgin Islands. For reservations and more information, go to visitusvi.com. That's visit usvi.com. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange. And on this day, back in 1949, Prince Rainier III became the monarch of Monaco. 6 years later, Rainier married an American actress in what was described as the wedding of the century, of course. The marriage was broadcast worldwide and viewed by more than 30 million people. Trivia question today: which American actress did Prince Rainier marry? Once again, which American actress did Prince Rainier marry? Be the sixth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, and you win a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the sixth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mike, what would you do if 70,000 lollipops showed up on your doorstep, specifically $130 boxes, so almost $4,000 in lollipops showing up on your doorstep?
I would be having some stern words with my children. Yeah, that's probably the direction I would go. Although I was explaining during the break that I am known in the Needham hockey community as the Lollipop Man because I do give out lollipops after every skate. I just don't know that I will be doing that for long enough to give out 70,000 dum-dums.
So do you represent the Lollipop Guild?
I do.
You do?
Always have.
So
perfect height for it.
Here's the deal. There is this kid by the name of Liam who's 8 years old. And apparently, like most kids, like, hey, mom or dad is ordering something on their phone or iPad or whatever it is from Amazon. And so they, kind of have watched, and, oh, can I help you order it? Sure, why not? Press this button, press that button, blah, blah, blah. And apparently they had put a box of lollipops in their, shopping cart, but then put it in, a list to buy later, not buying it right away. And apparently this kid wanted to have a carnival for his friends, and so instead of, putting something into the, hey, I want to, wait for this and maybe order it later, he accidentally ordered 30 25-pound boxes of lollipops from Amazon. So that they show up, and this is just great. The kid goes, Mom, my suckers are here. He sees, all these boxes being unloaded outside. The mom, of course, is like, this is too many lollipops. They're not, like, we're not supposed to have that many lollipops.
One of these boxes is too many lollipops.
Correct.
Yes.
These are huge.
Yes. Each one is, what is it? Like, each one is like 250 lollipops or something like that?
It's a 25-pound box.
Yeah, so it's a big box of lollipops.
I'm looking in my Amazon cart right now to figure out what I recently bought in terms of lollipops, because it was a pretty large order, but let's go.
Anyways, the mom then goes to her bank account and is like, oh, I've overdrafted a little bit because, it's $4,200. Let this be another great lesson. Don't use a debit card for that because you can be on the hook for it otherwise. Whereas, credit card, if someone orders something not to, that you didn't intend to order, usually through fraud. I'm guessing if it's your kid, there's probably stipulations on that and everything. But anyways, so 70,000 lollipops are being shipped by Amazon. Amazon's like, hey, we can't take these back because they're food and we can't take returns on food. Eventually, they managed to get to an agreement where Amazon was not going to take them back, but they would refund the order. They said we, quote, worked directly with her to turn a sticky situation into something sweet. Great that,
That's the dumbest
That's
recap.
what they said?
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
Whose AI did you use to come up with that?
Oh, God, that's bad.
So there's
I bought a 10-pound box of lollipops, by the way. It was $52.
It's a lot of lollipops. Yeah. And the family now is basically saying, look, we're donating a lot of these to charity. We're giving some to other families. Like, a few people have offered to buy a box here and there.
Nobody wants them.
But, again, a 25-pound box of lollipops, it's a lot of suckers.
Speaking as a parent of 2 8-year-olds as well as a 6-year-old, these are every once in a while they'll have my wife's phone, and I'm constantly like, what are you doing? Don't let them have your phone, because this is the type of thing that happens. Now, granted, was this done on an Alexa device, or was this done on the phone?
It sounds like it was done on a phone.
Okay. I don't know. That's the main lesson to me here, and this is not the first story that we have covered, right? We had the case of a kid spending $1,000 on Roblox currency, a 3-year-old,
which is a video game.
Yeah, video game. Spent $300 on movies. A woman's granddaughter spent $1,000 on Google Play. Like, this continues to happen, and it's consistently because, frankly, parents are letting their kids play with their phones.
Yes.
I put a pin on, like, anything. If they're close to anything gaming-wise, like if they have their little Amazon Fire tablet or, a Nintendo Switch or a Xbox, like, there's a pin. Be like, okay, what's the pin if you want to buy this? They don't know the pin. I do. That's how you do it.
Yeah, but now, I'm thinking this through, and my kids don't use my phone, but if they had it and it was open and they opened the Amazon application, this could happen to me.
Right, there's no pin that's needed there.
No.
You might be able to enable it, but Amazon, the default, I think, is just that they want as little friction as possible.
Right, and I want as little friction as possible given how much stuff I'm ordering, which is why I just don't let them have my phone.
Yeah, that's the ultimate answer. So this was kind of a wild one.
Yeah, pretty entertaining.
Should we talk about Expedia?
We should. So Expedia is following the same trend line that we have been hearing from hotels, as well as many airlines saying that bookings are just down. And it has been consistent on the travel side, and I think speaks to, in Expedia's case, I think it only speaks to one thing, which is international travel is down. More specifically, foreign travelers into the United States are way down. Yep. Go talk to anybody that owns a rental property in Maine, for example. They are seeing a decline in travel. What we don't seem to be seeing is a big downtrend in leisure travel by Americans. And it's tough to kind of draw this out exactly, but we talked about yesterday on the show how Disney's earnings were fantastic, and that included bookings at the theme parks, which they expected to be up. And likewise, Expedia, I look at Expedia and I don't really think of them as a company that benefits or falls because of business travel. I don't I don't know anybody that books their business travel via Expedia, I guess would be my point. But they probably are seeing a fall in booking from international travelers into the United States that we've been experiencing.
I think they do act as like the back end for some travel portals for large websites.
Okay.
Where they might just supply like the data and but like you wouldn't go to Expedia necessarily, but
right.
And the other I guess the other stuff would not be business related.
They also keep in mind Expedia. I know we all think of the plane and vacation booking. They own Vrbo, for those that aren't familiar. So the main Airbnb competitor being Vrbo. So you're renting one of those vacation properties. Again, international travel declining. Expedia is going to feel it a little bit.
We can't call it Vrbo. If we're going to call it Vrbo, then it has to be Airbnb on the other side.
Isn't that what Expedia has been calling it, as Vrbo?
It is, but it started as VRBO.
It did, yeah.
I can't get behind it. It's another one of those things where, like this, they didn't even change the name. They just changed the pronunciation.
Yeah, I like it.
It's like when Brad Marchand went from Marchand to Marchand back to Marchand in a few years, which I thought was great. Like just to mess with people.
Just to mess with you, I'm going to keep calling it Vrbo.
I'm going to change my name then without changing it. It's pronounced Zodda.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're moving the accent to the other syllable.
So when I call you on my voice command in my car, I have to pronounce it Zodda to get it to actually get to call you.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
It is.
Well, don't call me anymore. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got the trivia answer after this.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Congratulations to the students and staff of Emergence Academy in Springfield, Massachusetts for their winning submission to the state's Power of Presence initiative. The school's amazing video will help spread the word about the power of students being in school every day. To see the video and learn more, visit us at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations. And recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
A solid financial plan has many layers, and trusts are often a core piece. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Understanding the various kinds of trusts that exist can be extremely beneficial to your strategy. If you're retired or nearing retirement age, a trust may help you with a wide range of issues, such as asset protection, tax efficiency, and avoiding probate. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for our new guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. We'll discuss a number of different trusts and the areas in which they may help and how to determine which which one may be right for you. Even if you already have a trust in place, this guide can provide a description of certain issues that may arise and could help you decide if changes are needed. Call us today at 800-393-4001 and get your guide today. Or you can request the guide online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the top estate planning mistakes to avoid. Todd, what is the downside of adding your kids to your accounts or adding their names to your real estate deeds as a joint owner? Won't this avoid probate?
You're absolutely right. It would avoid probate, but there are better ways to avoid probate than just doing something simple, right? Simple isn't always better. Throwing a name on an account or adding a designated beneficiary or a joint owner on a piece of property might not be the best way to go. Here's the problem. If you name one of your children as a joint owner and you have 3 children and you put that child on just because it's convenient and they're geographically close to you, well, you could be accidentally disinheriting your other children because this property, this asset will only go to that child. That child doesn't have to give it to the other kids. So that's a problem. And if you put your name, if you add a child's name to your real estate, now you're exposing it to that child's creditors, that child's potential divorces. That's never good. And plus, you've lost control over it. If you try to sell it, you need that kid's permission, and half the money would go to that kid. Please, folks, set up a trust, fund your trust much better than just trying to do it shorthanded and just give away assets or adding names to accounts.
Todd Lutzke and the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that details the estate planning blunders to avoid. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, which American actress did Prince Rainer marry? That would be Grace Kelly. Donna from Johnston, Rhode Island is our winner today, taking home a brand new Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Donna. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Piece in the Wall Street Journal. Air traffic control overhaul needs billions in upfront investment, transportation secretary says. So, look, here's the deal. Apparently this morning, Newark lost radar for a little bit again. Second time in a week and a half. When was the last one? Like middle of last week or something?
I think it was within a week.
So, look, this is getting pretty dodgy at this point, and we're kind of lucky that it hasn't caused further issues now.
It's kind of embarrassing. I throw it right.
It's not kind of embarrassing. It's
dangerous.
It is straight up dangerous at this point, to the point where my buddies who are pilots are like, yeah, this isn't good. And normally they're pretty, level-headed people.
Yeah, it falls into the same category of America's underinvested infrastructure system. And this falls right into the same category to me as the dangers that we see in bridges and highways and train systems and everything that has just been for decades now ignored, because really since the 1980s, the entire drive has been cut taxes. And that has been a winning political strategy in spite of rising deficits and everything else. And one of the main offshoots and what's the word I'm looking for? One of the main problems with all that has been a lack of investment in the country's infrastructure. And it's not sexy to do. Nobody loves doing it.
No one wants to pay for it. Everyone wants to just get by and muddle through.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Because everyone wants to do the exciting stuff oh, I work for Facebook making chatbots that'll take your Visa card, and that's supposed to drive value or something. The only reason that any of that stuff can happen is because you actually have the real physical world infrastructure to allow for humans to do stuff that they need to do. And if you don't invest in the boring, the mundane, the stuff that is basically like the offensive lineman or long snapper of the economy, you're not going to be able to do the other stuff. You have to spend the money on this stuff in order to be able to do all the cool stuff that you want.
Yeah, it's a shame, but it is it's embarrassing because, countries like China are kind of light years ahead of us when it comes to their infrastructure at this stage, which I find personally embarrassing. And not to mention actually advanced infrastructure countries like Japan, like Korea, where it's almost unrecognizable compared to the United States.
Yeah.
Creating the right estate plan to help secure your future takes effort. Cushing & Dolan are experts in estate planning. Their new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. In it, you'll learn how to make the right decisions to always protect your assets while avoiding costly mistakes, any one of which could have a dramatic and damaging effect on your financial strategy. As an example, if you've created a trust more than 10 years ago and haven't updated it since, you're setting yourself up for some problems. Don't take chances with the assets you've worked so hard to attain. Cushing & Dolan's new guide will help you address issues like this. So call right now, 866-848-5699, and ask for your copy of their new free guide called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. That number again, 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
What's the right way to pay for that, by the way?
Pay for what?
The specific investment that we're going to need to make in air traffic control.
What do you mean pay for it?
I mean, obviously it's going to be a massive thing. You have to raise taxes somewhere. Where do you do it? Because I'm kind of falling on the use tax, even though we already tax airline travel quite a bit. I don't want to pay for this if I never fly.
So let's get into this, actually, just because I think it's an interesting conversation, because so a couple things. First of all, a use tax, basically what that means is that you're going to charge by the plane. Correct?
Seat, plane, whatever you want to do.
Well, again, it's not just passenger planes that pass through these areas, it's cargo. So you end up charging by the plane or by the pound, whatever it ends up being. Ultimately, that just means that those costs are going to get passed through somewhere else in the system.
Correct.
We're all going to end up paying for it anyways.
Yeah.
I'm a big... The more I've looked at how governments, try to justify doing this and that and everything, I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, if you want to, raise the money, just raise the money. If you want to spend the money, just spend the money. Don't come up with all these justifications for, well, if we get the formula just right, it'll target the right...
It never actually works.
This is how you build the bureaucracy, is through trying to be well, now we need to measure if someone's getting this just right. If you want to spend the money, spend the money. Don't worry about, is it going to affect every group equally or this one just a little bit? If you want to do it, go do it. So I don't like being we're going to do a use tax, because then you got to be okay, now we have to hire a bunch of people into the government in order to monitor the use tax and make sure it's being collected properly and no one's skirting it. Just raise the money if you want to do it. Simple is better.
It is, however... Well,
this is
we come back full circle to the way that this has been paid for decades now has been just spend the money and we'll raise the taxes later.
No, it's not. We have a gas tax that's supposed to be allocated to roads. Is that how it actually works in reality? No, it's not. Beyond this, the idea that, hey, we need to know if the money's being recouped in this. Does anyone look at the U.S. military and be why aren't they making money? No, because their job is not to make money. It's to keep us safe. Air traffic control is not supposed to make money. It's supposed to keep us safe. There's certain things where you can be okay, this is a revenue-raising enterprise. Air traffic control is not one of them.
Nope.
Like, I don't want it to make money. I want it to keep playing safe.
Mm-hmm.
On a related note, or kind of related note, one of the most embarrassing recalls that I have seen for an automaker, not because it's inherently dangerous, but just because of how many people had to somehow overlook this in order for it to happen. So Volkswagen unveiled a couple of years ago their ID Buzz. It's the VW bus that's electric now. And they rolled it out about 6 or 7 months ago, and they're now recalling all of the ones that have been sold, which are only about 5,600. So fortunately for them, it's not a huge recall. The reason that they're recalling it is because, according to U.S. regulations, the third row seat is so wide that it needs a third seat belt and not just 2 of them.
And so the fix
is not, hey, like we'll install a third seatbelt or something like that. The fix is we're going to put a big piece of hard plastic in the middle of that row in order to shrink the seat and reduce seating capacity.
So I have a few comments about this. One, Volkswagen, what is going on?
How is
you build an entire car for the U.S. market and then fail to understand the regulations that apply to the U.S. market?
How is there not one guy whose specific job is, I need to understand every measurement in this car and whether it fits within U.S. regulations?
By the way, this wasn't the only one. They also installed an emergency braking notification that was amber instead of red, which is against U.S. regulation, needs to be recalled for that. That having been said, what are we doing with these stupid car regulations?
Well,
there's plenty of blame to go around here, and I'm sorry, but a U.S. regulation that says if the seat is too wide, then we have to make it 3 seats instead of 2 is kind of dumb. Let the car maker decide what they want to put back there. So long as there's seat belts and you disclose how many people can sit in the car, I really don't see an issue with a seat being too wide. We're kind of fat here in America. We need wide seats. Likewise, if an emergency braking alert is orange instead of red, I'll figure it out.
Right.
I don't think that's a necessary regulation for us to have in the 3,000 pages that who regulates all of this.
Probably NHTSA.
That NHTSA has when you're manufacturing a car. I think that's kind of silly and stupid and we should do away with it. But Volkswagen, those are the rules of the road. You should have figured it out before you built these things.
Like, regardless of whether or not they're bad regulations, which I think there's a pretty convincing case that, as you said, like as long as you have big letters, 2 people in the back seat, okay, like
who cares?
Who cares? But having said that, the law says, hey, you get X inches of seat width per occupant. There has to be someone at Volkswagen who knows that. And if there's not, what are we doing here?
Yeah, agreed. Plenty of blame to go around, but pretty dumb for a rollout of such an important vehicle, right? This wasn't a new Jetta.
No.
This thing's $60,000. Like
they're not cheap, and the range is bad.
Oh, the range is bad.
The range is like 230 miles right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know who's going to buy it.
Yeah, and look,
that's when it's not weighed down with 8 passengers.
When they unveiled it, I was like, oh, like this looks fantastic. And then I saw the specs and was like, ew. Yeah. Like, I don't think that's going to work. But they've sold 5,600 of them, which is not great. But I guess the question is, like, those are all the people who are really interested. Like, what do your sales look like after you get past them?
Good question.
I don't know. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Paul and Monica from Barron's joins us after this.
Tariff fears continue to grip markets. Get the latest straight from Wall Street right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com. There are critical mistakes you can make during the estate planning process that may have a damaging effect on your financial strategy. Cushing & Dolan's new guide is called Detour Ahead, Estate Planning Blunders to Avoid. Get yours today and make the right decisions to protect your assets. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Estate and financial planning go hand in hand, and one of the most common ways to keep that bond secure is with a trust. Our new guide, called Trusts in Your Financial Plan, is available right now. In it, we'll discuss the various types of trusts that exist and how they might benefit your planning process. Trusts provide a number of different protections for your assets, including privacy, control, and tax efficiency. If you're retired or nearing retirement and have concerns about your financial strategy and whether or not a trust may help, call us today at 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide called Trusts and Your Financial Plan. Learn about how a trust could make a difference for you and your family by calling 800-393-4001. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide from ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
The United States Virgin Islands is consistently voted one of the top Caribbean destinations, and recently, 2 of their beaches, Trunk Bay in St. John and Maggins Bay in St. Thomas, were voted a top 10 best beach in the Caribbean at the 2025 Traveler's Choice Best of the Best Awards. From the pristine beaches to its world-class dining, rich history, incredible golf, and perfect weather, the USVI has everything you need to make memories that will last a lifetime. From the moment you arrive, you will fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no money to exchange, and travel from New England could not be easier. Whether you're looking for a romantic getaway or a family vacation, the U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect place for your next adventure. Go to visitusvi.com right now for more information and to book your trip. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Go to visitusvi.com today. That's visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
All right, as promised, we are now joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's. Paul, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. Let's talk a little bit about Decker's Outdoor. For people who aren't familiar with the company, who are they and what do they sell to other human beings?
Yes, they sell some popular footwear to human beings, although maybe not as popular as it used to be, which is a concern. So this is a company that owns the UGG brand of ugly shoes, but has really kind of gained a lot of ground in recent years because they also own Hoka, which is a sneaker brand that sort of kind of came out of nowhere and is now seemingly on the feet of a lot of people in the same way that Nike and Adidas are. But there are worries about sales momentum maybe slowing, and that has hit this once hot stock. It's down more than 40% this year.
Is this a case of tastes changing? Is it related to tariffs and cost? Is it something else? What's going on there?
Yeah, tariffs are obviously one of the concerns. I think that, fashion is very fickle. So there is, an element of, maybe, the sneakers not being as popular as they once were. Nike is trying to make a comeback. Obviously, Adidas is always, a tough competitor. New Balance, very popular as well. And then there's, Skechers, which, they've struggled a little bit also, but what's happening with Skechers might give investors in Deckers a little bit of hope, because Skechers announced earlier this week that it's going private, selling to 3G Capital for a nice premium. I don't think that necessarily means that Deckers is, looking to go private or sell out either. But if the stock continues to slide, you do have to wonder if there is a company out there that might look to scoop it up at a bit of a premium.
You mentioned they have, a couple brands under their umbrella. Is there also something where maybe they could be in the market for acquiring additional brands, or is that not in the cards for them?
No, I think it's possible. I mean, given the stock weakness, they would probably look to do any deals if they were thinking about it, more likely with, cash, as opposed to using their shares, which are no longer as attractive as acquisition currency. But I think it is possible that you could see Deckers look to make some acquisitions. I'm not really sure what other companies are out there that would be a good fit per se, but this is clearly an environment right now where we're slowly starting to see some M&A picking up, particularly in the consumer space. There have been a couple of beverage deals this year, Pepsi buying, Poppi, for example. So it wouldn't shock me if they're thinking about deals, but nothing jumps to mind as an obvious takeover target.
I want to go back to the Skechers deal that you mentioned. How does anyone go out, and I know that was a PE deal, but how does anyone go out and know how to value these companies given where their supply chains are and with that tariff uncertainty right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And when you look at Deckers, for example, their valuation has taken a gigantic hit. The knock on this company before its big slide was that it was very pricey. It was trading, around 38 times earnings forecasts in the early part of the year. That was a premium even to Nike, which is, obviously Dow component, the preeminent global brand. Now, because of this huge haircut that Deckers has taken, the stock is at a reasonable price of about 20 times earnings, which is below its 5-year average, obviously now a discount to Nike, and it's even at a discount to the broader market, the S&P 500 as well. So the question for investors obviously is, has this stock taken a big enough hit that it is once again reasonably valued, or is there more downside ahead? Analysts are starting to grow a little bit more bullish. You're seeing a bunch of analysts that have price targets that are significantly higher than where the stock is currently trading.
Very good. Paul, appreciate you joining us today, and hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot. Yep, same to you guys. Appreciate it.
That is Paul LaMonica from Barron's talking about Deckers Outdoor. Who do you guys buy for shoes these days?
I'm a New Balance guy now, officially.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm wearing
Can't go
Nikes
wrong.
right now. I don't know. I just go to the store, I run in whatever they tell me to, and then that's
so we're
what I
talking
take.
specifically running shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Brooks guy myself.
Got it.
I converted over about 5-6 years ago. Had a real bad experience with some Nikes in 2016, 2017. That might have just been like me getting old, but I bought a pair of you remember the phase where they were trying to slim down the shoes and everything, and it was a very your feet will feel the road more.
It was like neutral shoes.
I think my feet felt the road too much.
Yeah.
And
I'm all about the cushion now.
I love the cushion. You know, it's So
quick mention to the Woo socks for those who are local and considering. I just saw the funniest promotion that you can possibly come up for a baseball game. May 21st is Purr in the Park, where you can actually bring your cat to a ball game. Chuck and I were talking during the break. I can't really imagine an activity that a cat would like to attend less than a live baseball game with lights, colors, and noise, but they're doing it, and it's creative. Woo Sox, pretty good take, as was the Paw Sox. I loved going to that stadium too, but
you do
pretty
have
fun
to.
take.
Your cat does have to be on a leash or in the bag.
Yeah.
During the game, so that's a little disappointing to me personally. Your mileage may vary. Hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday. Busy week, including a bunch of inflation data on Monday. Well, the inflation data is not Monday, but we'll see you Monday.